Welcome to Night Coffee Crime. Today, we uncover one of the most disturbing stories in history. A tale of a woman who was known for her cakes and homemade soap. But what if the sweetness of her treats hid something far more sinister? A recipe for murder, not dessert. Crime history is filled with killers, but Leonarda Cianciulli's name stands out. She wasn't just another murderer. She was the soap maker of Correggio, a name that strikes fear even today. This is the chilling tale of a woman who turned her own home into a house of horrors. Leonarda was born in 1893 in Montella di Avellino. Her childhood was marked by hardship and unhappiness, a beginning that would shadow the rest of her life. In 1914, she married Raffaele Pansardi, a clerk working at the registry office. After their wedding, the couple moved to Lariano, in the Alta Irpinia region. But in 1930, disaster struck. An earthquake destroyed their home, leaving them with no choice but to leave. They eventually resettled in Correggio, a small town in the province of Reggio Emilia. By the 1930s, Leonarda was running a small shop in the northern town of Correggio. To her neighbors, she was well-liked, known as a kind woman and a devoted mother to her children. But beneath that warm maternal image, there was another side to her. Leonarda was deeply superstitious. In fact, to the people of Correggio, she wasn't just a shopkeeper, she was also seen as a poetess and a fortune teller. Someone who seemed to live with one foot in the world of the unseen. Leonarda had 17 pregnancies. 3 ended in miscarriage, and 10 of her children died at a tender age. Only 4 survived, and she was determined to protect them at any cost. She had never forgotten the chilling words of a gypsy fortune teller who had once read her future. "You will marry and have children, but all your children will die." Years later, another gypsy read her palm and told her, "In your right hand, I see prison. In your left, a criminal asylum." Leonarda lived in constant fear that these prophecies would come true. She believed that a curse placed on her by her own mother before her death was still haunting her, and that it would claim the lives of her remaining children if she didn't intervene. In 1939, as Italy's entry into World War II seemed increasingly inevitable, Leonarda's worst fear came true. Her eldest and favorite son, Giuseppe, was called to join the army. The news struck her like a bolt of lightning, and in that moment, Leonarda knew exactly what she had to do. She had to make a sacrifice. She believed the only way to save her son's life was to offer others an exchange. 3 of her closest friends, lonely, middle-aged women who had long yearned for an escape from the routine and solitude of Correggio, had each asked Leonarda for help. And with that, Leonarda decided the time had come to act. The first to fall into Leonarda's trap was Faustina Setti, the oldest of the 3 women. Faustina had long dreamed of finding love, and Leonarda played on that hope. She told Faustina she had found her a husband in the city of Pola, that there was a condition. Leonarda urged her not to tell anyone about the arrangement. It had to remain a secret, she said. And Faustina, full of hope and trust, agreed. On the day she was to leave, Faustina stopped by Leonarda's house to say goodbye. But then, Leonarda asked her for one more favor: to write letters and postcards to her friends and relatives, messages she would send once she reached Pola, assuring them that everything was fine. Faustina had no idea. Those letters would be her last. Leonarda offered her guest a glass of wine carefully laced with drugs. As soon as the sedative took hold, she struck. She killed Faustina with an axe, then dragged her body into a closet and methodically cut it into 9 parts. The blood was carefully collected in a basin. It was brutal, calculated, and it marked the beginning of something far darker. Then, As she wrote in her statement, she threw the pieces into a pot, added 7 kilos of caustic soda, which she had bought to make soap, and stirred the whole mixture until the pieces dissolved in a thick, dark mush that she poured into several buckets and emptied in a nearby septic tank. As for the blood in the basin, she waited until it had coagulated, dried it in the oven, ground it and mixed it with flour, sugar, chocolate, milk and eggs, as well as a bit of margarine, kneading all the ingredients together. She made lots of crunchy tea cakes and served them to the ladies who came to visit, though Giuseppe and she also ate them. The second victim was Francesca Sovi. Leonarda had promised her a job at a girls' school in Piacenza, a fresh opportunity that Francesca had eagerly anticipated. On the morning of September 5, 1940, she went to Leonarda's house to bid farewell before setting off. What she didn't realize was that this final goodbye would mark the end of her life. The script was the same as before. Leonarda once again convinced her victim to write 2 postcards messages that she was to send from Correggio, telling her acquaintances she was leaving, but without revealing where she was headed. With her victim's trust in place, Leonarda then attacked and made her second sacrifice. The third and final victim was Virginia Cacioppo, a former opera singer. At 53, she had been reduced to living in poverty, clinging to the fading memories of her past glory. Leonarda offered her a job in Florence as the secretary to a mysterious theatre impresario, urging her not to tell a soul. Enthusiastic about the opportunity, Virginia kept the secret, unaware of the deadly fate awaiting her. On September 30, 1940, she went to Leonarda's house, where, according to Leonarda's later statement, she ended up in the pot, like the other 2. Her flesh was fat and white. When it had melted, I added a bottle of cologne, and after a long time on the boil, I was able to make some most acceptable creamy soap. I gave bars to neighbors and acquaintances. The cakes, too, were better. That woman was really sweet. Virginia's sudden disappearance didn't go unnoticed. Her sister-in-law, who had last seen her entering Leonarda Cianciulli's house, grew suspicious and reported the incident to the police superintendent in Reggio Emilia. It didn't take long. By following the many clues Leonarda had carelessly left behind, investigators uncovered the truth and unmasked the so-called soap maker. At first, Leonarda denied all allegations. However, once authorities turned their attention to her son Giuseppe, she confessed to the murders. The court found Leonarda Cianciulli guilty of her atrocious crimes. She was sentenced to 30 years in prison and an additional 3 years in a criminal asylum. On October 15, 1970, she died in the women's criminal asylum in Pozzuoli, struck down by cerebral apoplexy. Today, her murder weapons and a chilling record of her crimes remain on display at the Italian Criminology Museum. She is remembered by a grim nickname, the soap maker of Correggio. Was Leonarda a desperate mother, driven by the fear of losing her children, or was there something darker within her? Thank you for joining me in exploring this chilling case. Until next time, stay aware and stay safe.